Yeah, their clown is genuinely terrifying.
Oh man, Bugsy is awesome. I love Bugsy.
Dude, that he is the
Yeah,
clown is
yeah.
played by Jeff. I can't remember his last name. He was
I
on Agents of Shield. He's Deke on Agents of
yes,
Shield.
yes.
He
Deke,
is. I mean,
that's
I
who it
met him
was.
at
Okay,
I
yeah.
met him at Comic Con, and he is the nicest guy.
He's great in that role too.
And he's fucking terrifying as that clown to me.
Yeah, yep.
And I just remember meeting him at Agents of Shield, and like he was one of those actors that had that. I won the lottery, like I got the golden ticket to the Wonka factory. Can you guys
Yeah.
believe? Like he's sitting down
Yeah.
at the table of like, I'm as shocked as you are. Like he was the nicest dude.
Episode 453 of the TV Dudes, recorded September 20th, 2023. The Other Black Girl. This week, we're talking about the British crime drama The Gold on Paramount Plus, the novel adaptation The Other Black Girl on Hulu, and the finale of Harley Quinn Season 4 on Max for dessert. But before we get to all that, I'm Randy.
I'm Les.
And I'm Nick, the other white Wisconsinite before I took care of Kyle.
That's the pitch that no one wanted to hear. They're like, well, who's the stars? Two white guys from Wisconsin. We're gonna pass.
We're gonna pass. That's a good move.
It's a good, smart move.
Smart. You know what?
Show sounds
true.
cheesy.
We haven't heard from Kyle in a while, so we don't know that Nick didn't tie him up and throw him in a well in the backyard.
Yeah.
I mean, you can check after this if you remember, but I'm gonna gaslight you into thinking he's all right. So
it seemed for a little while like he was poising Kyle to take over the show, and then it just got so dark.
All right, well, let's jump into the TV diaries for the week.
The Diaries of the Television Dudes. Brought to you by only the finest cocaine wine.
And I'll start with mine since y'all will have twin brain TV diaries.
Yeah, Les just copied mine. I wrote mine. I wrote mine 10 minutes ago, and I thought Les wrote his 5 minutes ago, but no, he just copied mine 5 minutes ago.
No. Like literally, you were in the thing and watched it highlight like a Ferris Bueller taking the days off.
Yeah, I was like, motherfucker.
So I watched Theater Camp because that dropped on Hulu, and I knew y'all would like that, and we're gonna talk about that on Patreon this week.
Very cool.
I watched The Homework. I watched Only Murders episode 8, which has a crazy couple twists at the end. I guess there's 2 more episodes left. I watched Ahsoka, which I thought this was one of the better episodes, although, man, that show is slow. Really, really slow. And then I watched One Piece, not the anime. I want to stress that I did not watch the anime. I'm not going to watch the anime. I would not watch 1,000 episodes of Terriers. I'm not going to watch 1,000 episodes of fucking anything. I am not going to watch the anime. No one should try to talk me into it. But One Piece on Netflix was starting to get buzz from both people who really like the manga and people who don't do anime. And so I was like, oh, maybe there's something here. And I watched it, and I've fallen completely in love with it, y'all. I'm 4 episodes in. I'd be more if I didn't have homework to watch. I would absolutely have finished it the last couple of days. It is super fun.
It's surprisingly good, isn't it?
It's really fun. It's. I mean, you guys talked a little bit about last week, or the week before, that it's like unapologetic about being manga. Like they are full on costumes, the special effects. It is wild and weird, but it doesn't have the sort of rhythms of anime that kind of drive me a little crazy. And also I think the characters they've cast, especially the lead, are crucial to what makes it work. The lead playing Luffy,
Choopy.
He's like Danny Rojas if you're a pirate.
Yeah, he's the Chupacabra from the Imperfects.
And
he's fantastic. Well, appropriate puppy. From he makes it for me. That could be a very annoying character.
Yeah.
But his earnestness is you're right. It's a Danny Rojas level of like, oh, you.
Yeah.
Piracy is life.
But it's super delightful. I guess it's only 8 episodes. I got about halfway through, and I'm probably gonna wrap that up this week. We may talk about it more next week, but it is super good. It's like this is like could wind up on my top 10, top 20 of the year. Good. I was shocked.
Yeah.
and how much I'm enjoying this show. It is what got me to. I was going to go back to Netflix for Mike Flanagan's new show and a couple other things. Sex Education starts back up next week, so I
Sure.
was like, I'll jump back in a little early and watch One Piece as much as my friends are watching, and glad I did.
Damn it. I'm
Yeah.
glad we
I think
keep notes on these things. I've got to look back through our TV diaries, Nick. There was like right after Randy dropped Netflix, you and I watched, and I'm blanking on what, but like we specifically finished watching. We're like, oh fuck, Nimona. You can watch
Nimona.
Nimona now.
Nimona, yeah, I can watch
Yes.
Nimona. We can do that for a Patreon.
For sure. Yeah,
Yeah.
you'll get a kick out of that.
Yeah, no, everybody talks about how good Nimona is. That's another reason. I've been making my list of like what I'm going
Like
to watch.
while you got the Netflix,
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, I'll have
they've
it for a
officially
couple.
entered into the rotating pantheon of like, who am I paying this month?
Yeah, I'll have it for a couple months because it's like, well, Sex Education, then Fall Out the House of Usher, then the Scott Pilgrim anime, which I'm curious to watch.
Yeah.
So they got me for a couple months. That's it. That's my TV diaries for the week.
Randy, every single time you say that you watched The Homework, I think that there's a new BJ Novak show. Like I can, my brain confuses it with the premise every time. Like,
You know what?
The Homework.
And it's-
I watched that.
And it's funny if BJ Novak were to make a show, it would definitely be The Homework. Like that's
The Homework.
That's, I'm not watching that for enjoyment. I'm only watching that because it's homework. That is the only reason I watch a BJ Novak show.
The slice of the TV audience that wants to watch Homework. So book readers. As Nick was saying, like we have a combo cut and paste mostly thing here, but I was also out a couple of weeks, so I watched the Lincoln Lawyer movie with McConaughey. I watched the show season 1 and 2 actually at this point, which I really enjoyed. He's different than McConaughey, but it's really fun. My mom was talking about having watched it, so I threw it on of like, yeah, let's see what this is.
Oh, interesting. I have some friends who really like that. I know that's one of those shows that is like very popular.
It's really fun.
I'm not big in lawyer shows these days, but
yeah, it led into Nick and I watching a like shit ton of lawyer shows. After our Copaganda week, we decided to watch whatever Lawaganda is, like the other half of that, convincing you that everything goes to court and Mr. Smith goes to Washington and defends you and all. Yeah, most of it's plea deals.
On television, there are two separate but equal propaganda outlets dedicated to making you believe everything is okay.
These are their stories.
So on that note, I watched of course like All Rise, which we got really into. I'll let Nick talk a little bit more about. It's a show about a black judge. I watched the first episode or two when it first came out. Having now watched a shitload of various law shows, it's really good. We watched Mortal Kombat Snowblind, which continues the trend of only animated Mortal Kombat is good Mortal Kombat.
Dude, that movie kind of ruled. Like
it was really fucking cool, man. I was really impressed.
Like maybe not quite as good as Scorpion's Revenge.
Yeah, that's their best one, but I'm shocked. There's a third I have to watch now.
It's like so it's a Mad Max universe and it focuses on like Sub-Zero's brother, fucking a blind swordsman, and Kano of all people is the big bad.
Yeah, with like weird robot arms and shit, and like yeah, it looks like Conor McGregor in running the Mad Max world, with magic and shit going on. It's really really odd, really good. Watched some Law and Order SVU. Watched a bunch of Lower Decks, which is The Homework. Theater Camp. I also rented Joyride and watched it, which remains fucking hilarious. Love that movie. Brooklyn, 30 Rock. I had a bunch of family in town, and my brother-in-law threw on a stand-up special by a dude who was pretty funny, but I was also watching going, how the fuck are you not like canceled just because of the amount of times you've said gay and the R word in this special? And he is. It's Shane Gillis, folks. So I don't think I'd ever actually watch Shane Gillis do stand-up. Shane Gillis is the guy who was on SNL for I'm not even on SNL. He was in the cast announced.
Yeah, he was announced and then like a day later.
Like, oh wow.
Like 3 hours later. And like he's told the story online about, his agent asking if he wanted to write for SNL or send a packet in, and like, no, I'm not actually a big SNL fan. Apparently somebody saw him do a set at Just for Laughs, invited him to audition. He did. It went well. Next thing he knows, they're like, he's meeting with Lauren and they're like, hey, we're going to add you to the cast. He's like, I'm not going to say no to that. They're like, do you have anything online that we should know about? We're going to announce it tomorrow. And he's like, I mean, yeah. I mean, we can delete my social media, but I've been doing a podcast for years. And he's a comedian. He talks a bunch of, I can't remember what the fuck they found on his podcast, but I do remember it was haltingly like, Jesus Christ, dude, you recorded that?
It was
no.
also they got it where the first one time they shot video for the podcast.
Yeah, he's like of all the podcasts, he's like, I'm not saying every episode doesn't have just the same shit, but he's like, of all the ones, it's the one we shot video of. So there I am in videos. He's like, so anyway,
no.
They dropped it from SNL like immediately.
I think SNL wouldn't have cared. When SNL heard podcast, they probably thought, well, that'll be some out of context thing that won't have his face on it.
Right. Lauren was like, that's no big deal. He's like, okay, cool. Yeah. So when he talks about it, he's like, it's really weird to have not been famous and also been like canceled down. Like, he's like, I got famous for 3 hours and then got just like, he's like consequences or whatever you want to call it. He's like, I felt him 3 hours into being famous. But anyway, yeah, we watched his stand-up, which walks a weird line. Like, I think at this point now that guy just does not fucking care. But also, I can see why SNL put him on there. He's got a timing thing and a humor that I was like, holy shit, dude, you're really good at this. Also, your act would be a lot better if you could just not compulsively say gay this fucking much.
Yeah.
Well, I'm honestly just
not just talking about like, but just as a like that's gay.
Yeah.
I'm just like, honestly, I'm happy enough that he doesn't spend the next 3 specials he does on complaining about how he can't say gay or whatever.
It's true.
Right,
it wasn't an hour of trans jokes or the entire special about being about the SNL thing. I had to go find that story once I realized, wait, why do I know your name, weirdo?
Honestly, I get. Honestly, I don't think workshopping a joke requires you to be offensive, but honestly, it does require you to find out where the line is. And comedians do that with their sets before they record their specials. They'll tour like for a year or whatever. They put it in front of clubs and they hone it, and then put it in front of like. I can't imagine recording your workshopping of material every week on a podcast is like,
well, just seems,
wow, no, don't do that.
It just seems like in the law shows we watched where which one had Alfred Molina? Harry's Law. Jesus Christ. Where like, they found a journal by his bedside that exactly describes how his wife died. And like how his wife was murdered. And like,
yeah.
Well, that's just dumb of you to write down, man. I'm sorry. Yeah. So anyway, Shane recorded how his career was going to be murdered, and then they murdered it. But yeah, we watched that. Weirdly, the other movie they threw in was Mute, so I rewatched Mute, which has a Skarsgård. Everything's got a Skarsgård in it.
Yeah, the Skarsgård, yeah.
That's
and
weird
Paul Rudd's
cyberpunk
mustache,
thing, right?
Yes, it's Duncan Jones and Paul Rudd's mustache, and it's the same universe as Moon, I think, like very tangentially.
That's right.
So watch that. Also rewatched The Nun with Fanny. She had not seen it. She was really excited to see The Nun too, so we watched The Nun, and that ended that. Watched the Minx finale. Watched what I didn't realize was going to be the Winning Time finale. Show just ended, man. Like season 2 felt unfocused, and I was still enjoying it. And then like while it was unfocused, it just stops.
y'all have been talking that up, and I was like, oh, maybe I'm just gonna sit down and watch this, and then they canceled. I'm like, oh, fuck that.
Yeah, I didn't know what happened. I mean, it felt like they canceled it mid-production. Like, what the fuck?
So it's a show about Magic Johnson, and he's like basically the main character of it.
Yeah.
And it ends on the one of their championships or whatever, and then in a little post-credits thing says Magic Johnson was diagnosed with AIDS this many years after this, and then like,
and they open with the shot of him coming out of a clinic at the start of the show, clearly getting the news that he has AIDS. So they were planning to get there.
Yeah, there's no way that this show was like, you can only do a Magic Johnson show and stop before he gets AIDS. Like, that's not how that works. Like, it basically tells you a bunch of stuff at the end of like, well, he actually became friends with Larry Bird, and that was his first call when I'm like, oh, well, that sounds like it would have been a powerful scene.
You've shown me literally no moment where these two have talked in any way that isn't fuck you. So like,
this sounds like this was at least 2 seasons like of shit you're trying to post credits like what's it like Animal
Yeah,
House?
like if Animal House opened with the end credits where everybody goes,
Yes.
like if they just did that at the start, that's kind of, I seriously, like I looked at Nick and was like, I mean, I guess this is the finale, and then they started throwing up, like, because it had that weird ending feel, and I was like, I feel like this is the end of this show. It's 7 seasons. I guess maybe the end of the season, and then they threw up the where everybody goes, and I was like, nope, end of the show.
It ends on them losing, and there's a bunch of unresolved stuff. Like,
Mm-hmm. So that they have to throw up there in a show about the dynasty that, like, and they win it this year and this year and this year later. It's weird, man. I'd like to. I almost feel like something happened there.
I
But
think what
anyway.
happened was probably Zaslav. That's my guess.
Oh, that's right, because they are Max.
Yep.
well, Zaslav
Cool.
and what's it? The writer strike probably didn't help any prospect of a season 3. Like, I wouldn't be
No.
surprised if that was the ending, and they thought they would get another season, and then when they realized that when the writer strike came down, like, oh shit, we might not be able to make any more of this.
Hey, grab the
That
notes
they
for the ending.
Grab
Yeah.
the notes and throw it back, like throw it on there and post. Like, I'm wondering when that slideshow of what, like, because it's just
When was
text.
that made? Yeah.
It's just text. Anyone could add that. It almost like it could have been added a week before it dropped.
All right, we're going to air in 5. Should we do anything? Yeah. Type this.
Take the Sharpie and write on the fucking.
Yeah. Well, that's about all I watched.
I watched with Les and some without Les All Rise, which I think was honestly the best out of all the lawyer shows that we watched this week. Well, that's not true. I mean, I watched some Good Wife and Good Fight, and I think those individual episodes were better. Even though Good Fight kind of goes fucking all over the place at some point. Like, I don't know what the fuck that show is doing in its last season.
It does. It's honestly, it's my favorite lawyer show because it is not a lawyer show. It's a fucking fever dream by the Kings. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's insane. But All Rise is about a young black female lawyer or DA that becomes a judge, and basically about how, you know, in those episodes of Good Fight and all those other lawyer shows where the judge is like, the judge is either like, ah, man, we got a conservative judge and they're gonna fucking penalize us and they have all the power in the world, and then when they have a nice judge or like a liberal judge, would be like, ah, but I'm chained by the system, I actually don't have any power. And it's like, wait, which is it? And it's this one, it says like, well, no, I have a lot of power. I'll have a lot of lateral decision making as a judge. And what if I just use that for good? Like, you know how conservatives use it for bad on all those shows? What if I just decided that, no, I can go and look up a precedent and make sure that this black teen gets charged with a misdemeanor rather than a felony so that he can live a life at some point. And not be fucked out of his, you know, like his job, career, or I'm not giving up this fucking dude to ICE because ICE came into my courtroom because they think I'm a weak judge, and fuck them.
Like but at the same time, the system is not set up for her to have the time for that to be her job. So like her clerk is constantly like, hey, so you see the stack of papers on my desk that you can't see me behind when I sit down? That's our docket for today. So like, if you want to take 3 days to save that kid,
so at least
understand what's
the show is
happening
acknowledging
here.
that what we're watching is about like 10% of her day, and most of it is plea bargaining shit out.
And there's like one she can kind of pick to really give a fuck about.
Yeah. Which I think is, you know, better than like her argument of changing the system and stuff is like, yeah, my family were not crazy when I went to go work at the DA's office as a black woman.
It is not the best written law show ever, I'm sure. I mean, I'm not a lawyer. Like I'm sure none of these shows are you know, accurate in any kind of court sense other than the barest minimum. But at the same time, I can't believe I've never seen quite this setup. Like, it's always a prosecutor or a defense attorney or a law firm, which aren't really courtroom dramas at all. They're boardroom dramas, or just dramas. But this, like, All Rise takes this judge down. I looked at Nick, was like, the only other show I can think of set up like this is fucking Night Court.
Mm-hmm.
Like, Night Court is about the softest hearted judge in the world taking on every like mugger and prostitute and being like, okay, look, $50 time served, don't do it again.
Yeah.
And like, this is somebody, really trying to care about these cases and stuff. This show also had a whole bunch of drama behind the scenes. Greg Spottiswoode, the creator and the showrunner, got investigated halfway through the first season when 5 of his 7 writers quit over racial insensitivity in the writers' room.
Yeah, it's interesting behind the scenes drama there.
Yeah, so they put D. Harris Lawrence with it, or they put D. Harris Lawrence with him, and then he got investigated again in the second season, and they just fired him, and his agency dropped him. And then Harris Lawrence finished it out with the third season over at OWN, I think. Picked it up for a third. Now it's done. I'm interested. We're in the first season now, and we're really, really digging it. I'm interested to see how it changes, because I know they are about to have a huge churn in their writers' room.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We're like 3 episodes away from like a mass.
The actress
walkout.
The actress that played the Misty Knight in the Defenders universe is the judge.
Yes.
And it gives
no robot arm, but they didn't do anything with it there either,
and I feel like good for her to get a show that's centered around her, and so she can show some of her chops. And I think get a character that has something to do and can be proactive. Yeah, I watched a bunch of Lower Decks, excited that the new season came back. I watched and then I watched Band of Brothers. That just hit Netflix.
Saw that in the Pacific too.
Yeah, and I actually never watched the Pacific, and I was like, well, let me go back and see if I actually like the Band of Brothers as much as I remember doing, and then I'll watch the Pacific.
Yeah.
And I kind of do. I really like Band of Brothers. It is definitely watching some of those effects, especially in the drop, the D-Day drop.
Mm-hmm.
It is. You could definitely tell, like, oh man, this was on a TV budget back in the day, and they did not have the fucking money for CG, and they tried anyway.
It was still HBO back in the day. Like, they did drop a fuckload of money on it.
Right, but a TV
still,
amount of money. Like,
not TV, it's HBO.
Sure. I also love Ross from Friends is their fucking drill instructor, like trying to get their company up to
it's one of his best roles, honestly.
Yeah. And everyone fucking they basically risk court martial and being shot because they'd rather risk that than go into combat with this man. But he gets
you maggots.
He keeps getting them lost during training. It would be one thing if he was just a hardcore drill instructor, but he's actually bad in the field. Like, he loses confidence. He gets lost. He's not a good commander. And love to see, man. Small roles, you'll see the crazy character. Michael Fassbender is in there as just a private grunt, that has almost like maybe 2-3 lines before I don't see him again. Tom Hardy's in there for a minute, like as just tiny small roles. Neil McDonough has a great big role, and he's really great in it. I love him. I think they have the guy that Simon Pegg shows up just to deliver a message as an American. And then fucks off. I think it was Spielberg was he showrunning or was he producer on it? But I think he called in a bunch of favors from actors and people, and a lot of them were just up and coming and new at the time, and they just didn't know they were going to get bigger. But it feels like the entire company is like, geez, I see you, all you guys. There's not a face I don't recognize in here in this entire unit.
Mm-hmm.
Easy Company is like in their spare time ran an acting troupe, and then after the war went and infected all the rest of TV.
Yep.
And yeah, that was about it for me.
Just a reminder that you can go over to patreon.com and support us by throwing $1 an episode. In exchange, we get to keep our streaming services, pay for our hosting costs, and you get bonus content each week. This week, we're going to talk about theater camp. All right, let's let's talk about our main course for the week. Let's start on The Other Black Girl on Hulu. This is um a novel that's been adapted, and it's the novelist is like one of the showrunners, I think, alongside I saw Rashida
Mhm.
Jones's name in there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
I feel like we've seen that go wrong recently, where like
Oh,
the
often,
novel,
yeah.
yeah, or it goes wrong frequently, where the novelist is the co-showrunner or has broken it for television or is adapting it, and the pacing's just slow and like keeps a bunch of things that like no, that's core to character, and like yeah, you can't put that as a whole hour.
Well,
Um,
I think the thing I've noticed is that I mean, in general, I've gotten to the point that when I see something is adapted from a book, I'm like, oh no, because it is the rare book that works in TV or movies. Usually, books work as books, TV works as TV, movie. I mean, there's
right.
exceptions,
I think we
but
we
I
saw
was
it recently in The Changeling, right? The
yeah, the
Changeling was a
Changeling.
book.
I'm sure the Changeling works better as a book than it does as a TV show. And I was actually getting similar vibes from this early on because I'm like, I like these characters. I'm intrigued by it, but I was maybe a couple episodes in, and I'm like, if you can't tell me what your show's about in 3 episodes, maybe it shouldn't be a show. And so I'd watched 3 episodes, and then went off and did One Piece, and I was like, I should watch a couple more just before we do the show. And as a result, I binged like four more today, and I'm like, oh, it's a little slow burn, but I kind of get it, and I kind of see the intriguing aspect of this. This reminds me a little bit. Remember the consultant that we watched
That's
earlier in the
exactly
year?
what I was about to say. It reminds me of The Consultant a
Yeah,
little bit,
it's about
which
how
I
I
think
mean
might also be based on a book.
because it is like weird. It's like it's the specific weirdness of an office and a new person who's just clearly off, but you're like,
Mhm.
oh, like you're like, are they really that weird, or is it just because this is a weird situation and they're a little odd? Like is it dangerous weird or just a little bit odd?
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
and also like, is there supernatural stuff or is it just craziness? I'm gonna go on record. I don't think there's any supernatural going on here.
I think it's just going to be yeah. I'm thinking it's just going to be stress.
Yeah,
Well, I think
yeah,
there's a we see it from the first episode. There's another black character, black woman character that is stole a security pass and is giving our main character Nella notes
Yeah,
about
right.
Hazel.
Well, and she turns up in episode 6, or in episode 5, she gets kidnapped somehow.
right.
In episode 6, we see her, and we were about to see the confrontation between her and the titular other
Hazel.
black girl, Hazel. And I'm like, oh shit, what is going on here? Because they definitely are like playing with, well, which one of these women is crazy? Because one of them is crazy.
Like
Yeah.
one of them's dangerous, crazy. Like yeah.
Yeah, one of them is dangerous, crazy,
Did
and we
she
don't know which
did she
one.
flee Boston because of this other girl, or does the other girl? Yeah, yeah. Is she warning her? Is she like?
Well, I really like the
It's walking a weird line of keeping me interested enough, like the Watcher.
Yeah, same.
well, Hazel is so good at gaslighting Nella that
Mhm.
I forget that like in the first episode she clearly fucked her over.
Yeah,
Like
what's
it
weird to me is like I understand that they want to give the viewers a little bit of tip, but I'm like, there's no way if this girl is so clever at being able to sort of be fake friends that she would have so obviously stabbed her in the back, right? Because that gives her an uphill road to climb,
right.
and I'm like, it doesn't make any sense except for the story that she does that.
And then well then later it's like she's helping Nella. Like
Yeah,
everything that she's
Yeah.
doing is helping now.
yeah,
And
At
I'm
this
like,
point,
what is
Nella's
the
starting to take like not take credit, but like the other people at the company are starting to foist credit upon her. Like we need someone to call us on our shit, Nella.
yeah,
Like
we
you've
really
always
like that
done. Like
you've
Nella
like
hasn't
you
always
speak your
done that.
mind,
That's
and it's
Hazel.
like, no, she hasn't done that voluntarily yet. Like it
yeah.
seems like all hey, I'm honestly I really want to finish it just to see what the like what is Hazel's like what's the end game here? Like what is she trying to accomplish?
That and
Because I still
yeah,
don't really know.
and that's the thing is like that is the frustrating and yet also compelling thing about it. It's like I'm 7 episodes into the show. I don't really know what it's about.
Yeah, I'm
And at the
6 and
same
I don't.
time, there's enough there that I'm like, well, shit, I gotta know. I gotta know how this finishes.
I know, but that's the risk you run too of that the last episode if it doesn't like like if I go back and like it better be like the after party where I can go back and go, oh shit, all our behavior makes sense now. Oh man, yep.
Man, I don't think it's gonna be that because I'm enjoying it enough to watch it through, but I will never watch this again.
Mhm.
I definitely am not like, oh, this, yeah, if it all clicks into place, it's not going to magically make me like it all better. I feel like it's flawed. Not as flawed as
I
the Changeling, but it's flawed.
Yeah, I don't think I'm gonna. I think I caught all the weird stuff so far. Like I'll be excited to see how it wraps, but it doesn't feel like After Party where I immediately want to go
Well, there's too much of a one. It's
play it
not
again. You know.
for me. It was early. It was reminding me of Them on
Yeah.
Amazon Prime, and I was like, I fucking hate that show. Don't do that. And some of my problems are her boss, the white lady
Will?
editor,
Oh no,
Yes.
no, yeah,
Yeah.
Vera.
She will always
think-
she will always be the first lady from Scandal to me.
I think the show
Oh,
wants her
wow.
to be in the wrong the entire time, and like, oh, how dare you not speak your mind? And I'm like, from a philosophical lesson, sure, but you work at a publishing company, and you are going to
Yeah.
have to work with thin-skinned babies that are authors.
Yeah, that is the thing. They're like, as I'm watching that first episode, I'm like, you know what? Like, yes, her boss is annoying, but she's also kind of right.
Yes, and I was like, I'm like, wait, does the show? I don't think the show wants me to feel like that. I feel like the show
Yeah.
wants to be on Nella's side and be like, how dare she raise down her voice? I'm like, no, you think that your boss has to, like, your boss has had said a bunch of things. Like, if I have to call this dude the next John Grisham one more
Yeah.
time, I will
Yeah.
fucking burn this office to the ground.
By the way, Brian, I don't know if Rashida Jones brought him in. Ryan Bumgarner playing the sort of entitled author
wow.
is great here.
Wearing
He's
the
so
same
good.
outfit as what's his name from Brooklyn Nine-Nine that was writing the Skyfire series.
Yes,
Like
man,
E.C. Parloff.
he's great. You know who else is great? Eric McCormick.
Yes.
playing
He's
the-
really good.
He's fantastic.
Fucking
I
killing
forget
it.
how good he is. Yeah,
Was it Fleischman? Yeah, it's Fleischman Was in Trouble.
Yes.
Where Christian Slater plays the douchebag author, where the
No,
whole
Je-
place.
Jesse Eisenberg.
No, Eisenberg's the
yeah.
main character, but
That's right,
Slater,
Christian Slater. You're right.
everybody's
you're right,
like the misogynistic dream author
yeah.
that dies partway through. And I kind of kept thinking about like the difference in that and of like, yeah, everybody also hated him. Like, I'm pretty sure publishing's full of like, I don't think you want to meet, other than Stephen King, I don't think you want to meet most of your author
So-
heroes.
So that brings up one thing I wanted to mention. I wanted to compare this to Fleischman's in Trouble. Similar thing where I'm like, I wound up liking it, but I'll never watch it again. And I think
Mhm.
you know how movies and TV, like, they all love to make shows about shows, like about what it's like to make TV.
Oh, book.
Every fucking author wants to tell you
Yep.
about what it's like to work in publishing, and I'm like, you know what? This is not as universal as you guys think it is.
I was
Mhm.
Randy. I was telling Les that exact. I was like, man, it is real up in authors as of like how many fucking things have to deal with the fact that we're a modern show is dealing with a publishing company is
Yeah.
weird all on its face already. Of
Yeah.
like,
Yeah,
and the fact that everyone keeps treating it like, well, just quit, Nella, and go where?
yeah. What?
Yeah, there's been
What do
no
you think I'm
discussion of
gonna
the
do?
death
Yeah.
of books.
Like,
Yeah. It is weird. And that is a thing about this. Like, is written by someone who I assume worked in publishing and came up similarly to her lead
Mhm.
character. And
Yeah.
there's a little bit of that. You don't realize how niche this is, do you?
yeah,
Yeah.
But it is just compelling enough that I want to know where it goes.
Yeah. And I mean, all the casting's great. Everybody
yeah.
in it's doing great. The all like a lot of the white coworkers, the lady with all the cats.
Oh yeah.
Like there's just so many like
Hey,
the
how
ones
are-
that
how
are
are your
constantly
cats
like
doing?
that party
Which
was a
one?"
surprise.
Yeah. The aggressively, the lady with the cat's also the aggressively ally person.
Yes.
The cringe ally person, like, oh honey, no.
It felt like Christina Ricci's character from Yellow Jackets has
Yes.
a cousin. Like,
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just,
I told Nick I was
Yeah.
like somewhere between her and Joe in Mythic
In
Quest.
Mythic
yes,
Like,
Quest.
yes. Yeah. All right, let's talk about the other show for this week. Let's talk about The Gold, which if the other black girl managed to win me over and be like, "Oh, I got to see where this goes," The Gold absolutely did not.
yes, it's very
oh,
British.
wow.
It's so British. And you know that it's British because if I describe the crime to you, it's immediately insane and you want to watch something about it. And then if you watch any of this about it, you don't care anymore because
Yeah,
they don't
it's-
they clearly give no fucks about this crime. They jump
Yeah,
straight to the fence. And so the setup and crime of it, I love. These guys are six guys are armed robbing a Brinks, like not a bank, but like a holding vault
Yeah, and
place.
they're expecting like $1 million in mixed currency.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
instead they
that-
find like 26 or 27 million in gold doubloon. Well, like,
Yeah.
first of all,
No,
don't
gold
take that
bars.
gold. That belongs to someone
bars.
else.
Yeah.
But secondly, how the fuck did they, if you were prepared for paper, how did you move that?
Yeah.
I expected to see their getaway van like sparking as they drove
they
away.
don't show the actual crime. They don't show
Yeah.
them seeing the fucking thing.
We literally see none of the crime in the first two episodes.
That's what bugs me about this. This is like, I'm like, you're telling me you had this is a true life story. This happened. You're gonna use
Mhm.
so you have a story about these guys who stumble into a gold heist, and you're not gonna do this like a Guy Ritchie movie. You're not gonna have fun with
Right.
it, and you're not gonna show me the fucking heist. You're gonna show me the aftermath.
And it very quickly becomes the setup of The Gentleman. Like,
Yeah.
I really this show has so much cool stuff going for it. Watching the cops figure out that like well, look, no, we've entered into a kind of weird space in crime. There's only a few people that can do this. It's the same problem that the villains they call themselves villains. Like the same that the bad guys are going through of like, well, fuck, who do we know that can move this? Not just move some broken gold, but like this much gold. So they need like a lord that they can use.
Yeah.
Like you can see it all coming together, but boringly.
This to me is like if you had Ocean's 11, and instead of focusing on the story that we got, this is the story of the two detectives assigned to find out what happened at the heist.
Yes,
Like,
Merchant
it's
Ivory's
the most-
Ocean's 11.
It's the most boring way to tell this story.
Except that even the heist, they figure out what the heist happened immediately and like how it happened and who did it, and now it's just about the fence. And I'm like, wait a minute,
Yeah.
don't you know that the criminal you have in jail right now knows the fence and knows who did it?
Yeah.
Like fucking lean on his ass.
That's what the name of this should be. The Remains of the Heist.
And it's because honestly, and they explain it later that I think the gold might still belong to the bank. It just was hidden for some reason. The show does not explain that well enough to me, because for me, the entire first episode, I'm wondering whose fucking gold is this?
Yeah. Well, that's what they say. Like, it wasn't in their records, all this stuff. They're leaving out the interesting parts.
Beyond even that, has anyone stopped and explained what the flying squad is?
No,
No.
except that nobody wants to be on it.
Right. And I
Apparently.
guess they're cops, but they even say to the criminals, it's not like an internal cop thing. They're like, it's the flying squad. Is it?
Yeah. Like,
What is that?
and the thing is, I like the lead. I like the two leads they've got as their cast. I like the idea of this guy from intelligence who wanted to move up in intelligence,
Mhm.
and instead they put him on the cops. And he's
Yeah.
very good. He's clearly overqualified for this
Right.
job.
Yeah,
But
there's a
they
lot
don't
of
do
good
anything
turns
with
of
it.
phrase. His explanation there of like, I've had a lot of successes at counterterrorism. Yes, and a lot of international incidents. Yes,
Yeah.
sir, it's counterterrorism.
You
That's
can't
gonna
have
happen.
success. Yeah.
Your successes are going to cause international incidents.
Incidents.
Yeah.
Yeah. I also love the line of, well, that's how England works.
Yeah.
That lot has it. Us lot steals it.
Well,
Yeah.
what I do like about the show is that they are very casual and just accepting about how crooked the cops are. And
Yeah.
like, you can't like, well, don't tell any precinct that would, don't even tell our precinct, because there's just going to be, it's accepted that there's going to be a few cops on the take everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And the cops themselves seem to be more interested in the fence people and the lord that are about to like get this money, and they're like, well, these are the people we normally can't take down because they are connected or protected. And I'm like, they're still fucking, honestly, this will get them upper, but at this point they're still mid-level.
Yeah.
And them catching these guys doesn't mean anything to me. Maybe it's because I'm American, but like, it feels like, I don't know, we bust mid-level fence people all that. It's not like you're getting rid of a drug kingpin or a crime ring, or
Right.
these are just a bunch of assholes who ran into some gold they weren't. For me, it's so, the interesting part of the show is so just fucking glossed over, as far as
Right.
I would be looking over
Mhm.
my shoulder about whose gold I stole until I knew, like, if it's the bank and they said that at the start, and just, even if it's not true what happened in real life, they still don't know where the gold came from. Just say
Yeah.
that it's from the bank and that it's insured. Then I know
Yeah.
that no one's coming after them. Because if you
Yeah.
say to me that no one knows where this gold is from, I'm like, okay, so someone is missing out on 26 million in gold, and I'm probably gonna look
Right.
for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we expected
like-
to find one thing, we found another, and we took it anyway. That is the start of a heist movie I've seen.
It's like Well, it's like
Yeah.
True Romance, where Christian
Right.
Slater takes
Yeah, I was gonna say that's True Romance. Yeah, there
where
are.
he kills if he just killed Gary Oldman, that would have been no big deal. But he steals the 300,000 worth of coke, and
Yeah.
when you steal $300,000 worth of coke, someone's going to come looking for it.
And that I think is the key. This is the thing we keep coming back to. There are a hundred interesting versions of the story to be told, and they somehow found the most boring version of it.
Yeah, I would say that even following the true events, there's more of a interesting story to
Yeah.
be told here.
I would rather go
Yeah.
read the wiki article on how this fucking went.
I think so.
Which is crazy. Yeah, it was a big disappointment. I mean, I knew that they had delayed this, and I know it's like a British show that's brought on Paramount. It feels like strike filler to me,
Well,
but I expected at least to be something
the-
interesting in it.
Right. Well,
it
Rogue
spoke
Heroes
volume.
was fucking amazing. I enjoyed the shit
Yeah.
out of that show, and then this
Yeah.
is like a heist and boring as fuck. Like,
Yeah,
I know that you can do British shit here.
That the most interesting part of this was like in the 50 Shades of Grey movies, like the most interesting part in any of those movies to me is the 10 minutes they spent drawing up that contract. And I'm like, actually, this is actually interesting. And it's a problem that the fucking lawyer contracting is the most interesting part about the sex movie.
yeah, that is a problem.
And the problem that with this show is that the most interesting part about it is the economics and of fence work of like, well, when you take that much money out of the gold market, it's actually now noticeable. And now you got to put it back because they increase the price of gold now that 26 million is out of the market.
Right.
And they're like,
yeah, they've stolen so much that it changed the supply total.
Yeah.
That's nuts. Like that's like you have to now fence gold without fucking up the market you've now created for yourself, and which means you have to buy cheap gold in order to fuck up the purity because it's way too pure to like. And I was like, shit, this is the most interesting part of this. And honestly,
the customs guy explaining what you have to do to like, okay, well they've got to move a little bit of it, get a receipt, then that receipt's going to make like a little pocket of well, this amount of gold in my car is okay. So then they're just going to keep changing out the bars and like doing that over, using the same receipt over and like him explaining on the board, I was like, I don't think I've ever heard anyone explain to me how you do that. That's actually really fascinating. Also, you could have showed me the criminals figuring that out over 2 or 3 episodes, and I would have happily watched them.
Yeah.
Like, why the fuck we got to take these bars over here? Dude, don't get pulled over. Go over here, get a receipt. Okay.
Yeah, there's no style to it. There's no appreciation. Like this
is not sexy at all.
This is an Elmore Leonard Guy Ritchie movie waiting to happen, and they fucked it up.
Yep.
All right. Let's jump over and talk about our dessert for the week. I think our dessert for a while. I think we may be off desserts for a little bit. And let's talk about Harley Quinn, the final episode of season 4.
We don't want to put Lower Decks back on there?
I guess we put Lower Decks back on there. But
yeah, we should throw Lower Decks on for desserts. It's a
okay. All right. I did watch Lower Decks. I forgot to mention.
It might be a figgy pudding, but it's at least a dessert.
So Harley Quinn. I know y'all. We'd all been a little bit down in the last few episodes. How do you guys think this season wrapped?
Oh Terribly. Man, maybe you should go first.
I liked the start of it. I felt it was a little unfocused, and then they didn't just not stick the landing. Like it wasn't even like a cool compound fracture. Like they just hit the mat weird. Like
me and Les watched it together, and we were like, I looked over to him and I was like, that would have been a cool moment if they had done the work for it. Like I'm not a good guy or a bad guy. I'm Harley Quinn. I'm like, that would have been really cool if she had struggled with being a good guy this season. Like they promised.
Potato clone last episode.
Yeah.
And we spent the prior 2 episodes out of continuity, like once in the future and once just with Bane.
And them like just blasting away with a laser, like that was, I don't know what that was. Like
and here's the problem is that I was wondering why do the Killing Joke so weirdly all of a sudden?
Yeah.
And treat it like, honestly, not like it's not a big deal that Barbara Gordon is in a wheelchair. Like that's not, and then why skip over Harley's struggle with being a good guy and just having her come into the middle? And it's because they want to do Sirens. They want to do Gotham City Sirens.
It feels like they got bored with their own plot and were like, but I'd rather get to Sirens. Let's just end Mayor Joker and do all this. And
I think you guys nailed it when you talked about this last week or week before. You mentioned it, and I think that basically it feels like they had this pitch for season 4. And they're like, okay, Harley will be this is how they ended season 3. Harley's with the Bat Family. Poison Ivy and Legion of Doom. That's gonna be interesting when you watch the dichotomy of that.
Yeah.
And then they started writing it, and they realized, oh, none of us have ideas for this. And it feels like if you look at the whole season with that, you're like, oh, that makes so much sense. Like that's what was going on. It's like it wasn't working for them. And then they do this whole swerve at the end of like, okay, now we're setting up Birds of Prey and or Gotham City Sirens. And I'm like, you guys lost interest in your premise like 5 episodes ago.
How am I supposed to trust that you don't lose interest in this premise?
Exactly.
Right.
You're like, you can't set up a new premise.
You burned a lot of goodwill here, man.
Failed your other one. Yeah. And there's the thing. There's
You
still
have
good
failed
episodes.
this cartoon.
No, actually, this episode itself is funny, but
There's
the problem of it is that it, unlike the previous seasons, it doesn't pull off the narrative plot stuff that it needs to do.
Yeah.
Like when the Legion, like the Legion ladies or whatever the fuck that Ivy's been hanging out with, betray her at the end. It has no oomph. It has no impact because they haven't. Talia has been coming in and out, and I forgot that she was helping them because they spend 2 episodes vacationing from the plot with the Bane Nora and then the time travel. And I just remembered episode 2, they take a break from both their duties to go to Vegas. It's episode 2.
Yeah, you're right. There is at least half the season that's basically filler. Like they didn't know what they were doing. And like the payoff at the end of this one is like Bruce Wayne decides he wants out of prison. And then just as he's getting out of prison, Alfred goes into prison. I'm like,
right.
That might have really been funny if we'd been watching Alfred struggle all season to get to prison. We saw like
it was
once or twice.
Such a background joke.
It was a little background joke once or twice. Yeah.
And they don't come like remember the last season again. They promised a therapy sessions with Harley and Batman via Skype, and they didn't do that. Okay, which is what a perfect way if you but because that would mean you were actually doing her struggling with being a good guy. Because if you wanted her to struggle, what perfect way to do that by talking with Batman, and then throughout the course of the season realizing that Batman's kind of a psychopath.
Yeah.
And that she doesn't want to be that type of a good guy. But because they are lost interest in telling that and having her struggle with that. But what sucks is that the finale, the writing of it treats it like they have done it. Like they have, she has struggled with being like, no, she hasn't. She's barely tried being a good guy, guys. I had
a teacher in high school that would get way the fuck off topic, like routinely. Like if something came up, he would just bird walk off onto another topic.
Yeah.
The problem was that he didn't take notes on what he was actually saying in class, right? 2 weeks later, he would make the test up based on what he'd written in his
notes
plan.
Yeah.
And so he'd be like, well, 2 Tuesdays ago, I talked to you guys about covalent bonds. And we're like, no, you didn't. You talked to us about shooting songbirds in your backyard for an hour, dude. And like, but that shit would be on the fucking test. And like, that's how I felt watching this was like, you guys look back at your notes, but you did not rewatch the episodes.
Yeah. And it's a shame because like I say, it's still a good show. There's still funny stuff in it.
Yeah.
But especially when you compare it with My Adventures with Superman that nailed its ending.
Oh my God.
Wow.
Yeah.
It really pales.
It's especially
compare it with the other finales of the other 3 seasons.
Yes. Like, it had good seasons before it. If My Adventures with Superman had fucked up, like it wasn't already riding on this wave of like, no, you're basically the smartest show on TV.
Yeah.
Honestly, the wedding season of season 2, the wedding episode with Kite Man and Ivy is actually one of the better finales of like that I've seen in the last 10 years. Of like, it really wraps up together all the Gordon stuff that he was working because he's suddenly at the wedding trying to like everyone coalesces back together at the ending to finally resolve everything that's been building throughout the entire season. But I don't know, maybe it's because it's the first, like, she doesn't have her crew anymore, so I guess they so used to writing Dr. Psycho, Clayface, and King Shark that they don't want to write anything for the Bat Family, even though
it is weird. They've lost their ensemble, and they have all become guest stars.
And then Talia
isn't working. Yeah.
And Talia resurrects Nightwing from the Lazarus Pit. Like, I'm like, I'm sorry. So are we doing Red Hood with Dick Grayson then?
Yeah.
What are we doing here?
Yeah, I will say one thing. One of the things I do really like that we've seen I loved Gordon getting Joker delivered to him right after he shot his daughter in the spine. Like
Yeah.
I'm like I've been waiting to see that in the comics forever. Like I want
Like, yeah.
they've shied away from him ever getting revenge for that. And I'm like, man, I understand the Joker's the Joker, but I really Gordon deserves to just torture the shit out of the Joker at this
Well,
point.
like honestly, in the next season, I'm actually hoping that, man, could we like let's put Joker on the back burner again? I think I don't.
Yeah.
I,
Yeah.
honestly, I was so it's part of being so into him as Mayor Joker, and
Mhm.
his family man thing I thought was funny, and now turning on it again, I'm like I don't want to see bad Joker anymore. I'm kind of bored
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
No, I would have loved if them kept Mayor Joker, let Bruce get out of prison, and put the bat suit back on, and be bored.
Yeah.
Because like
Yeah.
Joker's normal, most of these people are caught. Harley and Ivy are kind of friends. Like, what's
Yeah.
for Batman to do?
And I realized why they did that. I'm like, you had a great premise of the Joker being a mayor, family man, stepdad, and it was hilarious. And actually, one of the most interesting storylines anyone's done with the Joker in a while. And why did they drop it? Because they want to get the sirens off, and they didn't have the guts, like even just Young Justice worst season did, of changing up how Barbara got her fucking paralyzed. I mean,
Yeah.
I would say maybe just don't paralyze her. But if you
Yeah,
want to
yeah.
paralyze her, it doesn't have to be Joker.
Yeah.
It feels like somebody walked up into Mayor Joker's plot line and was like, "Hey man, it's been fun, but killing joke time." Oh, is it?
Yeah. 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 It's a bummer. I mean, like I say, we're talking shit. It's still a good show, but man, did they drop the ball last season? Last few episodes.
Versus the other seasons, it's really frustrating.
Yeah. All right. Do we want to talk about Lower Decks?
Absolutely.
All right. So let's talk Lower Decks. Boimler's first field command. I thought this was a weaker episode than the first two of the season.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's hard to compete with Moopsie.
Moopsie.
Yeah, Moopsie was great,
yeah.
and the Voyager thing was great.
All the deep cuts, yeah. I do like that they are continuing to advance plot, like not in a really heavy-handed way, but to advance plot. Like Boimler's advancing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's really, I don't know why that was surprised me, and it's really cool. Like he's not Peter Parker, always a freshman kind of thing.
Well,
Yeah.
also, Talin being underneath him at that point is interesting, because she gets to like really again, her straight man type comedy is getting to shine against Boimler's antics
Mm-hmm.
of like, yeah, just giving her the statistics of how many suddenly promoted ensigns die, like the stats. She's here to take care of the science stuff. All things that have ever happened have been science stuff.
Science stuff. Okay,
And
true.
then they're dealing with the all powerful computer of the planet, which happens to be a nice one, but it's out
Yeah.
of date. And I love that me and Les could immediately, like, it's an immediate, like, if you've ever had, like, you just have to work on a computer to ever notice of like, oh well, your last update was 300 years ago or something. Like,
I'm just gonna do
we'll
this update.
you to like, and I was like,
Yeah.
no,
Yep.
you don't know what
Because
that's gonna
as soon
bring.
as she said hard reboot, I was like, oh my god, it's about
Oh,
to
no.
Genesis this fucking planet.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
And yeah,
Yeah.
I did enjoy that. Like once again, like Lower Decks remains the Trek that most makes me immediately want to go look up specific episodes and watch actual other Trek.
Yeah.
Like
it
no
is
other
good
Trek
for that.
show
Yeah.
deep cuts me. Even Strange New Worlds can't do it this much. Like the cartoonishness of it allows them to stuff 27 Voyager. I'm sorry, Voy
save time.
deep cuts into an episode, and then I can go look them all up and like, son of a bitch, that's real.
Yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
my god, that stupid game. Yeah.
I will also say, having Boimler and Mariner show up live action in Strange New Worlds raised the show in my estimation.
Yes.
Yeah.
Just that little bit was like, oh, okay, it's real Star Trek now. A little bit more than it used to be.
There've been real art. Like I found a bunch of articles from a couple of years ago before, obviously the crossover, of like, is Lower Decks canon?
Yeah.
And
Yeah, it is.
people were kind of mealy mouthed about it, like, is it or isn't it?
Mhm.
And yep, I'm gonna see Sky Snakes turn up on some actual Trek at some point.
Yeah. Yeah.
Everything
Peanut
has wings
hamper.
on this planet. Why isn't it just a snake?
The Peanut Hamper episode of Deep Space Nine. No.
Oh my god, if Peanut Hamper shows up in like a live action, like as a villain, oh my god.
So y'all know
So-
I just finished watching You're the Worst. And
Oh, Lindsay.
Peanut
yeah.
Hamper as Lindsay. I mean, Lindsay's basically future robot Lindsay.
Yeah.
Peanut Hamper just absolutely works.
Yeah.
So do we think the ship that's going around blowing things up
So yeah, me and Les had an interesting theory about it
is that
because we were
Peanut
talking.
Hamper?
No.
Is that Peanut Hamper and Jeffrey Combs' robot teamed up?
Yeah,
Oh,
Artemis
maybe.
or Amagus or whatever.
Oh, maybe. I hadn't even considered. Yeah. I don't know.
Because Jeffrey Combs' robot, his thing was starting fake wars, like keeping two
Yeah.
factions going. So
Right,
like
right.
blowing up a
Mhm.
Klingon and blowing up a Romulan. Like, is he trying to start a war between the Federation and everybody? Like that's my bet right now. That's my send in this cereal box.
That or it's another absurd deep cut that like.
Yeah, true.
But I would love if Lower Decks is now to the point where it can deep cut itself. Hey, do you remember these two fucking robots?
Like a couple of things in the menagerie, I think, were from Lower Decks previous seasons. Like they're
Yes.
now their own weird Star Trek deep cuts. Yeah.
Yeah, they got into the that's when you know you've made it as a Star Trek season, where you can fucking pull from yourself out of your weird shit.
Yeah, I'm glad this is back. Looking forward to more.
Yeah, same.
Glad I'm glad the focus is this season feels like it's very focused on particular characters going forward, of like not even just the core cast, but even particular members. Like this is the episode of how do Boimler and Tallinn work as a team? How do they interact? Because we got to see her and Tendi in the last in the first episode. And I'm looking forward to like, yeah, how does Mariner or Rutherford bounce off of her as well? And yeah, I love Billups coming up as well, of like, are you sure it's not evilly threatened? And it's like, no, it's one of the good ones. Like, oh, okay.
Okay.
I mean, we deal with this a lot though. We just
all right. Well, I guess that'll wrap it up for us. Thank you to our listeners. Thank you, Les. Thank you, Nick.
Thanks, Randy. Thanks, Nick.
thanks, dudes.
Thank you to our patrons. Remind you to go to patreon.com/tvdudes and throw us that bucket episode. Listen to us talk about, this week we're talking about theater camp. We've talked about all kinds of movies and TV and that kind of thing. And until next time,
Dudes up.
The TV Dudes is an independently run podcast out of Austin, Texas. We are exclusively listener supported. If you'd like to help us out, go to patreon.com/tvdudes.
You can also find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at TV Dudes. All the music for our show is done by our friend and original TV Dude Gregory J. Amani Smith.
To find out more about us, go to thetvdudes.com. I'm Randy Lander.
I'm Les Weiler.
And I'm Kyle Scott.
Thanks for listening.